It's me, Ellie Krug, with Ellie 2.0 Radio and podcast on AM 950. And wow, do I need to start off by apologizing to my regular listeners. Because last week I screwed up and I said, that this week would be a best of Ellie taped show. And you know what? In my head last week, I was thinking this weekend was Labor Day, which of course it's not. Next weekend will be Labor Day. So you are getting a freshly minted show. You are. So I am just thrilled to be back to you, giving you the, good stuff. It's good stuff. It's like the best of me, but it's like a real show. So next week, you're going to get a best of because the station shuts down on the holidays. So there you go. All right. Whew, I'm glad I got all that out of the way. All right. What are we doing today? What are we going to do today, Ellie? Well, what in the world can I say after 4 days of the Democratic National Convention? I mean, what can I say, okay, with its dozens of incredible speakers? Some of the speeches during the DNC will go down in the history books for the ages. Some of them will. I mean, my God, Michelle Obama, are you kidding me? Barack Obama, huh? I mean, just some really, really rock star speeches. Oprah, and in a moment, I'm going to highlight one of those speakers. I am. However, as to today's show, okay, the big interview is with Nicki Hangsleben, who is the executive director of an LGBTQ plus youth mentoring nonprofit. And in my C block, I'm giving you the roadmap here, just so you know. And in my C block, I'll share about an incredible experience I had with a workshop that I did just this week. But let's get to the DNC speaker, and let's get to who is our idealist of the week. All right? I'm speaking of the former Illinois Congressman Adam Kinzinger. Yes, I know. For some, Adam Kinzinger was, and, maybe because he was a Republican, people listening to this are going to just discount what I'm going to say. And you know what? He certainly remains a conservative Republican. And at times before he retired from office in 2021, he voted contrary to my and maybe some of your values some of the time, but not always. He's always been a champion of LGBTQ plus rights. He has. He's all, he was in favor of abortion access. I mean, so, not entirely. Okay. All right. Is he been off in right land? All right. But please let me remind you, okay, that idealism does not require some kind of political or ideological litmus test. I mean, last week or the week before I talked about, Judge Ludig, conservative judge, totally an idealist, okay? Totally, all right? What idealism does require is that someone actively work to make the world better for all. Someone working for the common good. And I am not kidding you, I have no doubt that Adam Kinzinger is such a person, such an idealist. All right, so who is Adam Kinzinger? Well, he's a Midwesterner. He's a kid born in Kankakee, Illinois. I don't know if you can get any more Midwestern than that. A small city south of Chicago. He attended public high school and then went on to Illinois State. However, he was not an ordinary college student at Illinois State because while he was a junior at Illinois State, he ran for a county supervisor board position and at the ripe old age of 20, got elected as a county supervisor. I mean, who does that, okay? And he held that office after graduating from Illinois State until 2003, when he resigned. Okay, so there must have been a re-election. He must have gotten re-elected, and then he resigned to join the U.S. Air Force to become a pilot. I mean, what I've already told you is extraordinary about a human generally. Okay, and while in the Air Force, he flew KC-135 Stratotankers. These are planes that refuel other planes in air. and then RC-26 surveillance planes. Those are planes that fly around and get shot at as they're taking pictures. And some of his missions were over Iraq and Afghanistan, and in fact, he was twice stationed in Iraq with the Air Force. And he's still with the Air. I think he's a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force right now. So early on, this guy was the real deal. So, but even more of a real deal with what I'm going to tell you next, okay? Because in 2006, he was in the Air Force. Somehow he found himself in downtown Milwaukee. And as he was in downtown Milwaukee, he witnessed a man knifing a woman. In fact, he slit the woman's throat. Adam Kinzinger wrestled the knife-wielding man to the ground and disarmed him. I think he got knifed in the process. And happily, though, the woman survived. She did not die, okay? I mean, come on. You know? Somebody who will put themselves in a position of danger for another human, okay? That's good Samaritanship, all right? But that's also, I'm just here to tell you, that's idealistic. It is. Kinzinger first ran for Congress in Illinois' 11th Congressional District in 2010. He won that election and then subsequent elections, including after redistricting, all the way up through 2020. But what makes Adam Kinzinger most of all an idealist, and why I am highlighting him this week, is that way back in 2016, when the MAGA movement was it was crawling, it was barely born, Kinzinger publicly announced that he wouldn't support Donald Trump for president. Kinzinger continued that position of not supporting Trump, that public disloyalty, all the way through Kinzinger's remaining congressional career. Now think about this. This guy could have taken the easy road. He could have just been silent, without, dissing Trump. He could have just been silent, kind of went along, and then would never have gotten into the crosshairs. That's probably the right phrase of the MAGA movement. But no, Kinzinger was vocal. Trump was wrong for the country. He wasn't going to support Trump. Trump was bad. He'd be bad president. Of course, he got elected. Now, many of you know that of Adam Kinzinger because he was one of two Republican House members, the other being Liz Cheney, who were named to the House Committee on the January 6th attack on Congress. In fact, the J6 committee, on that committee, Kinzinger so believed. Hold on a second, Ellie. Read your notes, will you? Just read them right, will you? Okay. Strike everything I just said to you. Now I'm being the lawyer. On January 6th, in fact, on the actual day of January 6th, Kinzinger so believed that something bad would happen that day that he advised his staff not to come into work on the 6th. Told his wife, I don't want you to come to the ratification ceremony, because he had a bad feeling about what was going to go on. He brought his gun. He brought his .38 caliber automatic to work to protect himself. And he had that loaded pistol on his desk as things were going awry, as things were falling apart in the House. He did. Now, Kinzinger's role on the J6 committee led him and Cheney to being censured by the Republican National Committee. And so just so you know that, okay, on January 7th, so I'm like kicking back and forth here, on January 7th, the day after the Capitol was stormed, Kinzinger was the first Republican member of the House to call for Donald Trump's removal from office by the 25th Amendment. Again, this guy, fearless. He believes in certain things that are right. And subsequently, of course, he was one of the 10 Republicans who voted to impeach Donald Trump. No, hold on. Maybe it was more than 10 in the House, but there were 10 senators, Republican senators who voted to impeach him, but that wasn't enough. Later, in early 2020, Kinzinger launched a PAC called the Country First PAC, which was meant to reform the Republican Party and rebut far-right conspiracies, including QAnon. Now, after leaving office, because he resigned, he said, I'm not going to I'm not going to run again after it became clear he probably wouldn't be reelected. He was going to be primaried, of course. But, the guy that wasn't going to go through all of that. After leaving office in early 2022, he wrote a book about defending America. No, it would have been early 2023. He wrote a book about defending America for Trump. He also became a paid CNN contributor. Okay. Now, some of you may have caught, you caught the DNC, you caught all of the speeches. But I want to make my point here about Adam Kinzinger. And in a second, Brett's going to play a clip from part of his DNC speech on Thursday night. Now, noteworthy, he was one of the last speakers before Vice President Kamala started to speak. Now, that is like one of the most esteemed speaking slots, okay? The people who spoke the first night, at 6 o'clock, we like you, but, we don't love you all as much as others. By the time you get to Thursday night, and you're getting closer to the last slot, which would be Vice President Kamala, okay? By the time you're getting that, these are speakers who are significant for the party in a variety of ways. And they brought him on, okay, to talk to disaffected Republicans. Now, okay, so as you listen to the clip that Brett's going to play, remember that often to be idealistic, one needs to speak bravely and fearlessly. All right? Listen to the clip, okay?
Thank you. I'm Adam Kinzinger, and I am proud to be in the trenches with you as part of this sometimes awkward alliance that we have to defend truth, defend democracy, and decency. I was just a kid when I was drawn to the party of Ronald Reagan, to his vision of a strong America, the shining city on a hill. I was a Republican for 12 years in Congress, and I still hold on to the label. I never thought I'd be here, but listen, you never thought you'd see me here, did you? But I've learned something about the Democratic Party, and I want to let my fellow Republicans in on the secret. The Democrats are as patriotic as us. They love this country just as much as we do. And they are as eager to defend American values at home and abroad as we conservatives have ever been. I was relieved to discover that because I've learned something about my party too, something I couldn't ignore. The Republican Party is no longer conservative. It has switched its allegiance from the principles that gave it purpose to a man whose only purpose is himself.
It's a great speech. I love that he's got a sense of humor. He doesn't seem to take himself so seriously. And you know what? It sounded like some joy as he was speaking. So, you're going to hear from Adam Kinzinger again. You are. I think that this guy is going to continue to speak truth to power. And I would not be surprised if he shows up again, maybe as a Democrat, I don't know. Certainly maybe as a Republican if the party can pull itself back together. That's a big if, okay? Because it has pretty well imploded, as we all know. But we're going to hear from him again. I have no doubt about that, one way or another. And when you do hear from him again, we remember this. This guy was brave when almost no one else was, in a variety of ways. This guy is willing to say the truth, when a whole lot of other people are afraid to speak it. And this guy, Adam Kinzinger, he's an idealist. He is. Okay. All right. Well, that wraps up what we've got for our featured idealist of the week. When we come back, we're gonna do the big interview, and then we'll be doing the C block. Okay. I hope you like what you hear. Follow me on Twitter. I'm still on Twitter. You can do that, or reach out and email me because I love hearing from my listeners. LEJKrug@gmail.com. We'll be back in a sec. And we're back. Ellie 2.0 radio and podcast on AM 950. So check out Adam Kinzinger. That's not the last that we will hear from him. Trust me. And now for the big interview from somebody that we are going to hear from for the next 20 minutes or so. I am thrilled, just absolutely thrilled to introduce Nicki Hangsleben, who is the executive director of Queer Space Collective. Nicki's got a bachelor's degree from the University of Minnesota Carlson School, as well as an MBA from St. Thomas. Nicki, welcome to Ellie 2.0 Radio. I am thrilled that you're here.
Yeah. Hi, Ellie. It's so great to be here. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. And we should let the audience know that you and I met each other not very long ago, just a couple of weeks ago. We were on a panel together out in Golden Valley. But I think that we both liked each other based on with panels, you just never know how it's going to go, okay? I trust you've been there before with that person. Okay, well, listen, I wanted to have you on because Queer Space Collective is doing, it looks to me like phenomenal work, and it's innovative work as well. So why don't we just start out? Why don't you tell the audience, what is Queer Space Collective? How did it come about? And, and you got you're like raising money for a big project. So what's going on?
Yeah. Again, thanks for having me on the show. Queer Space Collective. So our mission is to create space for LGBTQ plus youth to feel safe and empowered to be their true selves. We launched in April of 2021. I was working on my MBA and was seeing a lot of the challenges that our young people were facing around suicidal ideation and depression. And we're in the middle of the pandemic. And so started talking to community about what kind of mentorship programs exist for our queer and trans youth, and heard there were none. And so it just started to gain momentum. And so we launched in April of 2021 and started with a mentorship program. And that's been kind of our primary focus. We've added on training and inclusivity training. And I'd love to chat more about that too. And in the fall, we are opening an LGBTQIA plus youth center right in the heart of Minneapolis. We don't have any youth centers, I don't think even across the Midwest, that support young people under the age of 18. So most LGBTQ centers are either in bigger cities, they serve adults, or they serve kind of college-aged youth. And so we're really excited to be opening this space. And lots of good stuff happening.
Well, let's talk about the mentorship program, because mentorship is incredibly important. I've been a mentor to a number of people. I just talked to yesterday a transgender law student who had never met a trans lawyer before and reached out to me and asked if we could meet. So there may be a mentorship that will come out of that. But, so we're all familiar. Most of us are familiar with Big Brothers, Big Sisters, which is also a mentorship program where you match a big with a little, and they get together, they do some activities like sports or go out for meals or go to play the arts or stuff like that. Tell us, is Queer Space Collective, is it analogous to Big Brothers Big Sisters, what you're trying to do?
Yeah, definitely. we have two programs. We have two mentorship programs. One is our one-on-one mentorship program, which is very much like Big Brothers Big Sisters. I sometimes call it the queer version of Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Okay.
And they meet out in the community. We match them based on interests, based on identity, orientation, location. Like there's a whole host of things. And then we give the young person the right to choose, incorporating their voice on like, who do they want to be their mentor? Right. Like you said, someone reached out to you who is a lawyer and is trans or wants to be a lawyer and wanted to meet a trans lawyer, right? Because you have that unique identity and that experience. So we match based on a lot of factors. And then we do a lot of group events because we know that young people want to meet other peers, that they want to see other thriving queer and trans adults in the community. So we do a lot of group events as well. And then we have our youth workshops, which is more of a group mentoring model. And this we started last year. A lot of we got some funding from Blue Cross Blue Shield, which is super generous. And it's kind of like community ed for queer kids. So okay. we partner with local organizations. So we just wrapped up a summer camp with Film North, where we bring in LGBTQIA mentors, and then we bring a bunch of our kids, and we do like a week-long camp program where they built films around identity and orientation. We've partnered with Bryant Lake Bowl to do a bowling initiative. We are doing a blacksmithing initiative coming up in a few weeks. And
Did you say blacksmithing?
Yes. Yeah, we found like a queer blacksmither in North Minneapolis. And then we're going to do a DJ initiative with Shannon Blowtorch, who's like an amazing local DJ here.
Yeah.
So that's another way to like build community, because not all kids want to have that one-on-one mentor. Some just need more access to more queer peers and, young people in their lives.
So let me dig a little bit deeper into the mentorship program. Okay. So what is the age range for the youth that are on that side of the equation, the mentees? So
the mentees are ages 12 to 17.
Okay.
And are primarily referred in by either their caregivers or parents or a social worker or a therapist or someone in the community who sees that they need some additional support in their lives.
And I'm assuming, just based on what you just said, that excuse me, that you have to have parent or caregiver consent for the youth. It's not like, as you and I both know, there are, unfortunately, a large number of queer kids in families where the parents, at least one maybe both, are unaccepting and unapproving. I'm assuming in that instance the youth can't just ask to be a mentee. Am I right about that?
You're totally right. They can ask, but they do have to have parent permission.
Yeah.
So we know that's a big barrier, and that is why we're opening up the center in the fall, and we're going to have hours of operation where it's just come and hang out, and you don't have to have parent permission. It's like hanging out at the YMCA or Boys and Girls Club, like very much a community center, and then we'll have programming for them in this space.
Okay, I'm going to get to that. The center is like a whole different thing I want to talk to you about, because it's such an exciting idea and concept. But because we may, on this show, have families with queer kids, okay? Mm-hmm. And if they're listening to this show, I'm assuming they're accepting, okay, because they know who I am. But we also may have some queer adults. So what's the age range for your adult mentors for the program?
Thanks for asking. Mentors are ages 25 and up. And we do thorough background checks, and you can apply and again, share all of your interests and why you want to be a mentor. And it's a little, there's training. It's pretty rigorous. Right. We need to make sure that we're bringing in safe lives of these young folks. So I might have cut out there for a second.
Yeah, we had a little bit of buffering, but that's okay. I think we got the gist. Can you give us an idea how many matches do you have going on right at the moment? Is it 10? Is it 100?
Like 50. I think 50. We're currently supporting 50.
All right, well
matches.
That's a great number. That really is. Now, one more question. I'm sorry about being so thorough here, but I really, this is such a public service as well. And what's your geographic area? So I'm out in Victoria, okay? I'm out in like Carver County. you know, red to purple Carver County. Are you accepting mentor? You're getting a gist here, aren't you? Are you accepting mentors that far away or mentees that far away, or do they have to be like in Hennepin and Ramsey counties?
So we're Twin City Metro. So we've had kids as far as St. Boniface all the way to Stillwater.
Okay.
And I think even up to Ham Lake. And then we also have a St. Cloud
Great.
Queer space also. And we're not doing one-on-one mentorship there. We're doing more of the group mentorship model, youth workshops in St. Cloud because of a variety of reasons of that community. It's a little bit different. So we've created a structure that works for there. Okay. So yes, Ellie, we would love for you to sign up to be a mentor. And anyone else who's listening, we are always looking for more mentors. We have a lot of trans and gender nonconforming kids in our program. So we're always looking for more trans mentors specifically and BIPOC mentors as well. And so, yes.
Okay.
And you know.
Well, for the record, St. Bonnie is just next door to Victoria, just so you know.
The kids are coming from everywhere. So, sometimes if you're a little bit further out, it can be a longer wait to find someone who's close enough because, if it's too much driving, then it becomes a barrier for the mentor and then no one's set up for success. So we work really hard on, a lot of that. But a lot of caregivers, they want this for their kids. So they're often willing to help with driving and drop kids, off at like meeting points in between. We do a lot of that also.
Right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, that's great about the mentorship. Let's talk about the gathering space because are you fundraising for this space or have you already got the money and you're building it out?
So another great question. Thank you. We are currently fundraising for this space. Okay. So it's being built as we speak. I just was there yesterday and they've recently put in carpet and a few of the windows. So we got a space right on the corner of Franklin and Lyndale Avenue in Minneapolis. It was a gutted building that we've totally been reworking to work for our space. We have our own private special little entrance, and in that it's going to be very much a flex space where we can host big group events. We can have it open to the public so young people can just come and hang out and grab a coffee or get some resources or, maybe they need a hygiene kit where, our intention is to really have a lot of support there and then also just tap into other, organizations. And really, we do a lot of partnering. So if someone comes and they need support on gender affirming care, we can refer them over to Family Tree Clinic and our partners over there Yeah. So we're in the middle of a campaign. We have raised, so our Create the Space campaign is $650,000. We've raised over half of it to date and are hoping to raise the rest of it by the end of the year.
Okay, hold on.
Yes.
Let's tell people how they could donate to that because it's such a rock star. It sounds like, the whole nonprofit seems like such a rock star concept. But if somebody wants to hey, I want to give some money to this place, what do they do?
Yes, you can go to our website, queerspacecollective.org, and donate there. You can do a general donation, or there's a full page and a link to donate specifically to this new youth center and this new space. And if you want to talk to myself or someone on the team, you can also reach out at info at queerspacecollective.org. And let us know you'd like to have a conversation or you want to we're looking for significant donations. We're looking for smaller, anything and everything in between. Okay. And we'd love to chat with you all more about it.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now let's talk about the part of Queer Space Collective that's competing with Ellie Krug. And that would be
We're not competing.
That would be your training.
We're working together on this.
I'm giving you a hard
same
time.
End goal to raise awareness and inclusivity. But yeah, so we have Queer Space Training Institute, and that's where we do our LGBTQIA+ inclusivity training. the reason we started this is about a year into our programming, the YMCA reached out and they said, we have all of these summer camps and we would love for you to come and train our camp counselors on how to create more inclusive spaces at camp. And so
what a great idea. What a great idea.
Yeah. And most of the young people, like they've been like, they know they're inclusive, but they don't always know how, like, what are the rules of the camp? Like, how do you navigate parents who don't necessarily support? Right. How do you deal with bullying? So just giving them more tools on like how to create those inclusive spaces. And then we thought, oh, this is brilliant. Like, this is a way that if we build this up, we can have more of that system level impact. That's not like the deep direct service, like mentorship, but can help create more inclusive spaces for young people everywhere. So we've worked with over 100 organizations. We just wrapped up a big project with Best Buy last year and did training with all of their teen tech centers across the country. And again, it's usually well-intended people who want to know how to support queer and trans youth. They just don't always know or have the resources or tools. And so we help them on their learning journey and provide resources. And, you know, we're always looking for consultants with special expertise, Ellie. So maybe when someone needs like the legal expertise, you can be one of our queer space consultants. And then
ring me up. We'll see. You know, although on a serious note, I mean, I don't know about, you know, you haven't been, I mean, I've been doing this work since 2009 in one form or another. And it's historically has had its ups and downs, but I'm experiencing, and I'd be interested to hear what your team is experiencing. I mean, it is really, really a big down right now. I mean, I'm finding many organizations are very reluctant to do anything around anything that could be characterized as DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And certainly very reticent about having a transgender woman come and speak to their team members for fear that 1 out of 100 people is going to be upset. They don't know how to deal with that one person. Have you seen any kind of a downturn, or maybe things are just going still well on your end?
I mean, I think corporate, we've seen, you know, some corporations step back. We do still have a lot of great corporate partners who are always showing up. I don't, you know, a lot of who is reaching out to us are smaller nonprofits, community organizations, governments, you know, like the state of Minnesota. We're going to do training with some of their folks. So I think we've seen a little bit less of that on that side, but have also really just focused in on working with those spaces where young people show up and really, you know, prioritizing those types of organizations, because there's people like you who are working with corporations and can do, you know, bigger, broader work, right? DEI work. And our scope is pretty focused. Yeah.
And that may be the distinguishing factor. I don't know. We'll see, you know, but my audience has heard me lament about how things have slowed down. And, you know, and of course, I mean, just within the last 2 weeks, we've had Harley Davidson and John Deere, and now the maker of, I think, Jim Beam has decided, I read yesterday, decided that they're pulling back, no more DEI work of any kind. And so, you know,
really unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Us all back, right?
So let's, for a minute here, let's just talk about what it means to be a queer kid in America right now, and particularly in the Twin Cities. You know, there's some depressing stats around homelessness because, I mean, literally kids do get kicked out of their homes. You know, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the Trevor Project does a lot of research, which is great because there haven't always been a lot of research about the broader LGBTQIA plus community, or especially young people.
Let me stop you. For our listeners, Trevor's Project is literally a lifeline. It is a suicide prevention organization, but they do other things. But their key goal is to be suicide prevention for LGBTQ youth and adults.
Yep. And they have a lot of resources on their page or on their websites. But so the numbers fluctuate a little bit every year, but for the most part, we know that LGBTQIA plus youth are 4 to 5 times more likely than their hetero peers to attempt suicide. We know that 85% at least experience harassment at school on a regular basis. They make up 40% of the youth homeless population, as you were just noting. But we also know that if an LGBTQIA plus youth has at least one supportive adult in their life, then suicide rates go down by 40%.
Okay.
Which is really powerful and furthers why mentorship is so important.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm watching our time. So, okay. Nicki, I told you this off air. Every person we have on, because this show is about idealism, about people trying to make positive differences in the world. And obviously, you are this matriarch, hope I can use that phrase, of this organization. You are the founder. You are leading it. You had a vision. You have built it. My hat is off to you. You've taken it from 0 in 3 years to like, holy cow. Okay, so way to go. Way to go.
Thank you.
Do you consider yourself an idealist? And if you do, okay, how did you get there? What was it about your makeup or somebody in your life or what happened to you to cause you to be idealistic?
Yeah, that's a big question. I feel like I could talk about that for an hour. I definitely feel like I'm an idealist. My grandmother was always like just really heart open and positive and always just sees all the beauty in life. And so I feel like it's part of my DNA and my genes, and my mom has that energy. But I remember even as a kid during, in the 80s when in the famines in Ethiopia, I remember being like really shook by that. I was a young kid, but I just saw that. And I just remember feeling like that, like the injustice of that and how we were so privileged. And just so identified that at a really young age. And in college, started up a group called Sisters for Social Justice, and we did conferences. And I always thought I would be a teacher or like a politician or social worker. And
you're all that right. You're all of that right now.
A little bit, but then I got an accounting degree, and I remember I went to my women's studies teacher, and I was like, I'm totally selling out. I'm going to get a business degree, and she said, Nicki, all nonprofits need a great CFO. And that was like one of the best blessings I got at a young age, because it really taught me that, we all need to use our talents and plug in the ways that we can to make the world a better place. And so I worked at NPR with that degree for 10 years and then went into international development and did programming overseas. And then I felt like I wanted to do something closer to home. And so launched Queer Space, and it's been an amazing journey. And I feel like it's such a gift that I get to use my talents and get paid to do this amazing work and really support our community. So I feel yes, grateful and definitely an idealist, because I do think if we all contribute a little bit, like that's where we can affect change for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I'm grateful for you, Nicki, and I'm grateful that you were bold enough to just say, I've got this idea and I'm going to take it and go forward, and the history with many nonprofits is they fold after, just a few years. Mm-hmm. And it seems like you've been able to navigate that tricky course. So my hat is off to you. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
And if there's anything that Ellie Krug can ever do for Queer Space Collective, will you reach out to me? Okay. I believe in what you're doing and what your mission is. And I look forward to hearing more in the future about all the great work that you and your team are doing.
Awesome. Thanks, Ellie. Really appreciate you as well and all the work you're doing. And yeah, I'm so glad we met a few weeks ago. Like I said, I've seen you out there and I'm like, oh, she looks cool. I got to connect with her someday. So what a treat. And then I got to be on your show. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay. Well, thanks, Nicki. All right, listeners, we've been speaking with Nicki Hangsleben, who is the executive director of Queer Space Collective. Go check them out at queerspacecollective.org. And if you can, think about, contributing a few bucks. All right. When we come back from our break, we're going to do my C block where I talk about my work as an idealist. And you're listening to me, Ellie Krug, on AM 950, Ellie 2.0 radio. If you like what you hear, go visit my website at elliekrug.com. We'll be back in a sec. And we're back. Ellie 2.0 Radio, C Block, my work. Make sure you check out Queer Space Collective. Sounds like a really great organization. And if I can find the time, which I don't have right at the moment, still working on book 2, but I might be involved with that organization in one way or another. We'll see. Okay. All right. C Block, very limited amount of time. This is where I talk about my work. Before I forget, remember, Carver County Pride Festival will be taking place a week from today on the 31st of August in Waconia, at the fairgrounds of Waconia from 11 to 8. So make sure you go, okay? I won't be there for a variety of reasons. I'm no longer on the board, and we don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but I'd like you to go, okay? All right? Okay. Now, all right, so C Block, look, I did an online workshop this week for a healthcare organization with its frontline people. So these are like the receptionists when you come and, give your driver's license and your medical card, like the lab techs, some people in the office. Okay, these are frontline people who are interacting with LGBTQ plus people. And the workshop was about how to be welcoming to LGBTQ plus people, particularly, though, for trans, how to be welcome to trans and non-binary people. I got to tell you, I did it online. I did it from, the office in my house. It was a little rusty, okay? I was. There's some things I missed. I should have said X or Y. But you know what? You wouldn't have known it by the time it was a 90-minute workshop. By the time the workshop was wrapping up, you would not have known it because it was on Zoom, and if you're familiar with Zoom, you can message in Zoom. You can, message everybody, or you can private message. And I was getting this slug of private messages from the 60 or so people that were on the workshop. People saying these incredibly wonderful and warm things to me about, because my basic premise was, please treat us decently. That's all we're looking for. That's all that any human is looking for, is just to be respected, be smiled at, and to treat us decently and use the correct pronouns. But then yesterday, I got an email from one of the attendees who talked to me about, I'm watching identities here, but about having a middle schooler who is LGBTQ plus. The person who was a woman, and she and her husband are accepting of their kid. And she just told me that my workshop helped her family, just to give her some more tools about how to be there for her kid. The email, I'm not capturing it because the words that she used toward me were so over the top that I started crying. I did. I mean, rarely do I cry about anything, but they made me cry because they were so beautiful. And she was writing about me and my work. I just, and it came on the heels of some other news I got that wasn't all that great. It was really weird that the universe sent me that email at that time after the bad news. I don't know. That keeps happening in my life. All right, I got to watch my time. Big thanks to my producer, Brett Johnson, the best in the whole wide world. Thank you, Brett, for always being there for me. Listeners, okay, between now and when you hear my voice next, all right, do me a favor. Will you go out and do something nice for another human, something nice for the world, something to make the world better? Will you do that for me? Great. Thanks. Okay, have a great Labor Day weekend. Ellie Krug, over and out.